It's almost Sunday, Rube. Big game against Washington. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. You excited, Rube?
Yeah, it's crunch time. I love this time of year. You know, the weather gets cold, the games get more important, and you find out what your team's really made of.
Yeah, we'll have Ray Didinger along in just
Was that
a little
short
bit.
enough for you? I always talk
appreciate
too long in my little intro remarks. Dave gets pissed at me.
We'll have Ray with us in a little bit to kind of look back at the Giants game, look ahead to Washington, and the potential this team has if they get to the playoffs. And at the end, we'll kind of go through the running back situation, a little bit up in the air right now with some injuries. But first, I wanted to start off with a really good piece you had on the site. 10 things that have changed for the Eagles that kind of led to this turnaround. They've won 6 of 8 after that 2-5 start. So I have the list in front of me. I figured I would just kind of go through and we can talk about each item just a little bit. And I'll start off, and you have them chronologically ordered, which I appreciate. We'll start off October 3rd. Landon Dickerson moves to left guard. You're right. That was a big one.
Yeah, remember how concerned we were those 2 games he played at right guard? And, he was coming
I wouldn't
off.
say concerned. I would say there was a little bit of I don't know.
Yeah. Well, concerned. That's a word for that. Is concerned.
No, isn't to the level of concerned.
There was some measure of concern because he wasn't playing up to what we expected. And looking back, maybe it was a little unfair. He's coming off a severe injury from December and didn't have training camp and a preseason, and he was inactive the first week. But once he moved to left guard, and when Seumalo got hurt, and Seumalo isn't a bad player, but Dickerson came in. Yeah, Dickerson's come in, and I would say the last 2 months he's been really, really good. His run blocking is world class, and his pass blocking's gotten pretty good too. So I think that kind of coincided with the running game, and a lot of these 10 things kind of happened right around that Lions game when they turned around. But I think that was the move that really, and it was a series of things that happened. He originally went in a right guard for Brooks, and then when Seumalo got hurt, he moved to left guard. Driscoll initially came in at right guard, but that was the O-line that really helped establish the run with him at left guard. That was huge.
Yeah, he's never given that spot up again, by the way. That's his spot.
That's his spot. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen at right guard, but he's the left guard.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, the next one, October 14th. And this is kind of – some of these dates are a little loose because it starts here and there, but the three-way safety rotation – is a good one too, because they came into the year with Anthony Harris and Kayvon Wallace, if you remember that. And then Kayvon got hurt, and then it was Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps, and then Rodney came back.
And then Epps had a concussion in the opener.
Yeah.
So they went through some safeties there early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but ever since, the last couple months, they've really utilized those 3, Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, and Epps. And really, it's been just because Epps has been too good to keep off the field.
Yeah, and I think especially for Epps and Rodney, I'm not sure Epps is a guy you want out there 70 plays. I think Rodney at his age has benefited, at his age and coming off an ACL, has benefited from his snaps decreasing a little bit, although I know it drives him crazy. But it just seems like the 3-way safety rotation has been the best for everyone. And, Anthony Harris has pretty much played the most snaps, but, Epps is one of those guys that, he's a real playmaker. I just wonder if he played more snaps, there might be that point of diminishing returns where I think the way he's being used now is perfect for him. It gives Rodney a little rest here and there, which is probably good for him. And it's unusual. Usually those 2 guys you want your safeties out there 100% of the plays, but right now it's working.
Yeah, it's funny because they had a similar type of rotation with the linebackers earlier in the year as they tried to figure it out, and then they really went away from it, whereas the safety, they went to it more and more over the course of time because they realized it was working. Marcus Epps might be a candidate for one of the most improved players on the team.
Yeah, he's been interesting. He's been one of the bigger surprises. And again, you got to give Howie Roseman credit for, they put in a waiver claim when the Vikings cut him. November of 2019.
Yeah.
It was just
it's amazing how we knew then that they were going to hire Gannon.
That's right. And but it's one of those moves that when it happens, he's just some guy, he's just, all right, and we're like, all right, who's going to write this? And we write it and nobody really cares. But he didn't play a whole lot then, and he was a special teamer. He's just kind of, this is his third year here, and he's kind of just gotten better and better. And he was a 6th-round pick. He's one of those guys that needed some time. I don't know what his upside is. I don't know if he'll ever be more than what he is now, but he's been solid, and he will hit. That's one thing. And we get into
he's
TJ.
Not a big guy either.
He's not a big guy, but it's kind of like they've become more physical with him. Like Anthony Harris isn't like a real big thumper, but Epps, and Rodney will hit you. He's got he's a physical guy, but Epps gives him a dimension. And he's around the ball. He's an interesting player. He's definitely one of the more improved guys on the roster.
Yeah. This one we have a definite date for, October 15th. Zach Ertz gets traded to the Cardinals, which is, when you say that in a list of things that have gone well or that have led to things going well, it's a little surprising. He's one of the all-time great players this franchise has ever had. But I get your point. Yeah,
I mean, it was I hated to see him go. I mean, he's such a great guy and a great Eagle, Super Bowl hero. But since that trade, well, not only do the Eagles have a better record than the Cards since that trade, Goddard is just, he's blossomed. And, he's obviously had some drops lately, but he's been, since the trade, he's a number 4 tight end in the league, behind Kelsey, Kittle, and I think Mark Andrews. I mean, that's like, he's just ahead of Kyle Pitts. A few yards ahead of Pitts. So he's number 4 behind 3, all-pro type guys, Pro Bowl type guys. And I just think, it's also enabled them, run blocking is not Zach Ertz's strength. And you have Goddard, you have Jack Stoll, and you have Tyree Jackson are all really good run blockers. And again, it's another thing that's coincided with the running game taking off. Is they just are built more for doing that. And it was a really difficult thing for Nick to have Goddard and Ertz. You have 2 number 1 tight ends. You're trying to juggle them. You're trying to keep them both happy as far as reps and targets and catches. And that was a really hard thing to do. So as much as you hate to see him leave, I do think it's helped the offense.
Yeah. All right. October 24th. This is a loss. Now, this is the Vegas game, but really what we saw in the first 2 drives of that game, and we couldn't believe our eyes. I was in Vegas like was I out too late last night? Are they under center running with Miles Sanders? But I get your point. That was when they realized they could run the football.
Those first 2 drives before Miles got hurt, it was the first time we had really seen Nick commit. I think they ran it on 6 of their first 12 plays, something like that. And Miles was getting 5, 6, 7 yards. He had a 9-yard run in there. We were like, oh my God, what is happening? And he got hurt. Jordan Howard wasn't activated yet. He was still on the practice squad. So they went the rest of the game with Boston Scott, and they ended up falling behind and getting beat. But I think the seed was planted that day in Nick Sirianni's head that, hey, we can run the ball if we commit to it. And the next week, Jordan Howard, I think the first couple games he was a game day elevation. He wasn't even on the team yet, but he ran the ball really well. Boston had some big games, and that's when it started in Detroit, that 175-yard streak. I really believe those 2 drives in Vegas planted the seed in Nick Sirianni's head that we can run the ball, and doing it changed the season.
I was trying to work in the flower metaphor with planting the seed and the roots, but it doesn't quite mesh.
I'm sure there's something there, if you work on it.
October 25th, Gardner Minshew replaces Joe Flacco as the backup. Yeah, it ended up paying off, at least in one game.
Yeah, and he's, look, and you got to pick. So I don't know if Joe Flacco beats the Jets, and if they don't win that game, and it was a difficult game because the Jets came out somehow, firing on all cylinders and scoring on their first 3 drives. And if Gardner hadn't been up for the task of matching them drive for drive, touchdown for touchdown, I don't know if they win that game. If they don't win that game, they're not sitting here saying, we're in the playoffs if we take care of business. So I think it was a big upgrade. Flacco hasn't played. I don't know. And I think I just think you have a better QB room with Gardner than with Joe Flacco.
All right. Halloween, you have 2 items here, and they kind of follow the same path in a way. They added some physicality. Jack Stoll starts playing more on offense. TJ Edwards, to me, is the bigger one, starts playing more on defense.
And Jack Stoll plays a lot of snaps. I mean, he quietly is a big part of this offense. I think over the last couple of months, he's averaging like 25 to 30 snaps a game. He's a really good run blocker. And TJ Edwards is one of the bigger ones, I think, on this whole list. He's really changed the mentality of this defense. I mean, he's so physical and smart and just solid tackler, physical presence. He's the biggest hitter on the team. He's always going to be a little bit limited physically because he's not out there. He's not running a 4.3 for you, but he's just given this defense some physicality that they were lacking, and really consistent player, gotten better in coverage. So I think he's made a huge difference on this defense.
Yeah. He's been fun to watch too. You don't think of a player like that as being fun to watch, but his instincts are so strong that he might lack straight line speed, but he's in the right spot. And that's why we saw, like last week, he almost makes a diving interception because he was where he was supposed to be. He read the play, and he's been really, you're right. It's hard to come up with a bigger one on this list. I mean, running the ball, all those put together are bigger. But if you're one item on this list, I'll put my money on TJ.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we think of instincts, he's just so smart. I mean, he's one of those guys who's had to really, he was undrafted out of Wisconsin. He's had to work for everything he's gotten, and you make up for your physical limitations, by being prepared and being smart and really understanding the offense. And I think Gannon loves him because of that. He's made a huge difference.
Yeah, just a couple more on here. November 3rd, the date they released Eric Wilson. I agree with this one too, because it's not like Eric Wilson was a bad guy or he was a locker room problem. That those guys have been cut before as a message, but the message here was that if you're not producing and there's a better option, we're going to go with the better option.
Yeah, and I don't think they did it as a message to anybody. But it showed, we talk about the coaches being inflexible and just doing the same thing week after week. That was kind of the first sign we got of, all right, we're trying something different and see if it works. And it has. Yeah,
it was pretty clear. He was inactive the week before.
Right.
And then he doesn't play special teams. If you're a backup linebacker and you don't play special teams,
see ya.
Yeah. Yep. And the last one, I believe the next week or a few weeks later, and this was kind of a gradual thing, but Teron Jackson starts playing more. Ryan Kerrigan starts playing less.
Yeah, and I put those together as one. And, it just, again, showing some flexibility on the coach's part. I mean, they really obviously wanted Kerrigan to be a big part of that defensive end rotation, but it just wasn't happening. And Teron Jackson has come in as a rookie 6th-round pick and been pretty active. And we've just kind of seen a gradual thing where now Kerrigan's still playing. And, he obviously missed the last game. He was in protocol, but he's still playing and he's still getting some reps. But I think the last 5 or 6 games, Teron Jackson's gotten more than him. He's had a couple tackles for loss the last few weeks. He had a sack against the Lions, and he's just more active than Ryan Kerrigan. And that's good when a younger guy can take reps from an older veteran like that.
Exactly. And I did see him work in a fake spin move against the Giants, which I like. I like the fake spin move.
You like that one?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll ever be. I would doubt he'll ever be a starter. But if he can be a rotational guy, as a 6th rounder, I mean, you'll sign up for that any day. There's so much to explore in Valley Forge and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Montgomery County is composed of charming towns and main streets, each with its own personality, style, and unique vibe. Whether you're looking to get away with your family or enjoy a special trip with friends, leave behind the stress of planning and use our guide to find some of the most amazing things to do. Explore which town and main street suits you best or visit them all. Now, here's what you do to check them out. Visit makeitmainstreet.com and plan your getaway today.
Joining us now on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan, as he does every week, our good buddy Ray Didinger. Ray, how are you?
Doing very well. How are you guys?
Doing well. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas. And I hope you enjoyed watching the game on Sunday. It was a game against the Giants that started much differently than it finished for the Eagles. What did you make of the arc of that game?
This is this team now 4 weeks in a row. They let the other team score first. This slow start thing is something that I know Nick Sirianni sort of said it's not a big deal, but I don't know. I mean, to me, it's 4 weeks in a row. It's a little disturbing. Last week, I mean, it just looked the whole first half. Really, both teams were just pretty terrible. This is something that I think they kind of have to talk about if they're going forward. They've been able to win of these 4 games. They've been able to win 3 of them, that's fine. But you need to find a way to start faster than this. If you're going to go into the postseason, you're not going to be playing against Jake Fromm. You're not going to be playing against Garrett Gilbert. I mean, you're going to be playing against maybe Tom Brady, and you don't want to try and sleepwalk through the first half, or by the time you get to the locker room at halftime, the game's going to be over. So they're going to have to work that out. But yeah, I mean, once they got it going in the second half, I mean, Rodney McLeod's interception and then the quick touchdown by Boston Scott. Once they got that spark, then they scored pretty much on every possession, and it wasn't much of a game. But the first half was it was pretty painful to watch. I have to admit that when I went back and watched it again, I sort of fast forwarded through that first half. I didn't want to sit through that a second time.
Yeah, and I think I wrote that after the game on my 10 observations. You can get away with that against some of these teams, but when you're playing a good team, that's going to catch up to you. And it seems like turnovers have been the big culprit early in games, and the last couple of weeks. You just can't make those mistakes early in games, and obviously Goddard. I mean, that was kind of a fluky play, but if you catch the ball, it doesn't turn into an interception. Jalen has been loose with the ball early, and those you can't give a team a short field. You can't give a team hope that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of it when the game starts. Those plays can keep a bad team in a game. So to me, that's the biggest culprit is those early turnovers. They really put you in a hole and make things difficult.
Yeah, I know. And the thing with the Giants one was there was a lot of different stuff. You had a couple plays that easily could have been turnovers. The Gainwell opening kickoff could have been a fumble, could have been recovered as a fumble. The pass that Hurts throws that went on review could have easily been an interception. So there were those. There were drop passes by 4 different guys, not just one guy, but 4 different guys, and then penalties all over the place. It wasn't just like 1 or 2 things. It was like a whole succession of things that everything in the first half just seemed, really out of sync. And I know it couldn't have been any more fun for Nick Sirianni to watch it than it was for us. But second half, okay, they got it together. That's fine. But you have to, if you're going to go to the postseason and play the teams that you're going to have to play in the postseason, you're going to have to come out and be a far more efficient team than that at the beginning, or you're going to find yourself playing uphill.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts said that they haven't played their best game yet. And yeah, I think we all agree with that. I mean, there have been so many of these games where they start off like that and they finish strong, or vice versa. And it's a little troubling, but I guess it gets back to like, what are our expectations for this team really? Because they might be a playoff team, but how do we view them now? I mean, do we view them as a legit playoff team? Do we view them as a team that yeah, maybe they'll make a little run here, but we kind of expect that they're not of the caliber of the top teams. Like, how do you view this team, I guess, right now with a couple weeks left?
Well, yeah, I mean, a legit playoff team, but you keep expanding the field. It doesn't being a legit playoff team doesn't necessarily mean you're a good team. You keep expanding the field, you're going to wind up with teams getting in there that are right on that line. But yeah, I mean, I think of the teams that are right there in that fighting for that number 7 spot, they probably are the best of them right now. But it doesn't mean, the gap between there and the top of that ladder is pretty steep. And we talked about this on the pregame show on Sunday when Michael Barkan sort of threw out the question, okay, let's say they do get to the playoffs. I mean, that's fine. But when they get to the playoffs, are they really a team that's in a position to actually make a run, quote unquote? And, I hated to be Mr. Buzzkill on this, but, I said, I just don't see it. I mean, if you look at this team's performance defensively against really good quarterbacks this year, it just isn't very encouraging. I mean, they've certainly beaten up on the lesser teams and the lesser quarterbacks, but you see what the really good quarterbacks have been able to do against them. Pretty much, we've talked a lot about that 80% completions. Now, are they a better team right now? Are they playing better? Yeah, they probably are. But we still haven't seen this defense match up against a really first-rate NFL offense and be able to really slow it down, much less stop it. And I think that's going to be, to me, that's the problem. If you're looking to the playoffs, and does this team have a chance to, win a couple games in the playoffs? Offensively, I think, the way they're running the ball, I think they're going to be a handful for just about anybody if they stick with that running game. But the problem that I see is on the other side of it, I just don't know defensively, even though their stats look pretty good. I just don't know, based on what I've seen of them playing against the better offenses in this league, if they can win those games on defense.
I guess the unanswerable question is, how much of their improvement is related to who they've faced and how much is genuinely they're a better group with coaches that have a better understanding of what the players can do. There's been some personnel changes. T.J. Edwards comes in. I think Rodney's playing better. Fletcher's playing better. So how much of that is related to who they've played? How much of that is just they really are better? And I think it's probably some of each. I don't think if they played Tampa again, if they played the Chiefs again, I don't think it would be a wipeout like it was the first time. But I do think they certainly wouldn't look like they did against Jake Fromm. So I think they are a better group, but I do think a lot of that is who they've played. That's why I'm really curious to see them. Maybe if they go into that Dallas game and it does mean something for both teams, let's see how they do against Dak and against that offense that's loaded with weapons on offense, obviously on defense too. But to me, it's the most intriguing thing about this team is how much of that improvement on defense is real and how much is just a product of who they faced.
Right. Yeah, that really is the question. And if you get into those games against those quarterbacks, it really is going to come down to getting how good is your pass rush. How much pressure can you get on those guys? How likely is it that you can get enough pressure that you can disrupt the timing in that passing game? I don't know. I mean, one of the issues with this team really all year has been the pass rush. It's been a little bit better lately, but again, you're going up against lesser teams and depleted offensive lines. I don't know if you get up against a really good team and a good quarterback that gets the ball out fast. I just don't know if they have the horses to get the kind of pressure you're going to need to win that kind of game.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, too, how Gannon would handle it, because his game plan early in the year was pretty clear-cut. He was going to say, we're going to not throw too much at them. We're going to limit big plays, and they did, and then teams just marched down the field on them. You're right, without that pass rush, they couldn't do anything. I wonder if he'd play it differently now. That's the other part of it is, like, would Jonathan Gannon look at those early games and look at his defense now and think, well, maybe we still want to limit big plays, but maybe we can be a little more aggressive because I feel more comfortable with the way these guys are playing. I don't know. It's a fascinating question, and we might not find out until the playoffs. And it could be a scary moment, when they're in Dallas or Tampa that first week, the wild card playoffs, and all of a sudden we find out what they have. But Ray, let's move now to this upcoming game, Washington. It's a weird circumstance. They just played this team not that long ago. Different quarterback, obviously. What do you make of first Washington and where they are coming off of that loss to Dallas, and the part of it where they're about to play this team twice in less than 3 weeks?
Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I like the idea of finishing the regular season with division games. I like the way they're structuring the schedule now that you finish with division games, but I don't know that I like them all bunched together this way. I'd like to kind of play one round of them early in the season. Play a couple of NFC East games in September, a couple more in October. And then play everybody at the end. But when you jam them all in the end and you wind up playing a Washington team twice in 3 weeks, or the Giants almost back to back, I'm not a big fan of that. I like finishing the season with division games. I just don't know that I like having as many of them at the end of the year as they have this year. But the Washington team, I don't know what to make of them. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, they had won 4 in a row. It looked like they were starting to put some things together. And now the whole thing has pretty much just fallen apart. And obviously the performance on the field is one part of it. I mean, they just got utterly obliterated by the Cowboys. And then you have the scuffle on the sideline, which I don't know that that's a big deal. I mean, those two guys have been playing together since college. I think it's just one of those moments of frustration in a really bad game on a really bad day that can happen. But when you combine that kind of a blowout loss for a season that has totally gotten away from the team with some of the stuff now that has just happened off the field within the last week, I mean, tragic stuff, real life stuff, as Ron Rivera put it. I have no idea what frame of mind Washington's going to come out in on Sunday. It's just, the one difference will be obviously this time, as opposed to when you played them the last time, they will have a veteran quarterback. I mean, Heineke and Allen are both back now. They didn't have either one of them a couple of weeks ago. So that will make them a little more potent offensively. You have a quarterback that might be able to get the ball to Terry McLaurin down the field. But I guess a lot of the question is really just kind of be mentally, how ready is this Washington team going to be to go out and actually compete on Sunday? And I don't know that any of us are going to know the answer to that until the game actually starts.
Yeah, I think it's a little scary game. Playing them so close together. I'm concerned that the Eagles will look at that Dallas game, and like you said, I mean, that was dismantling. Dallas could have scored 70 if they wanted. You look at that score and think, oh, we're gonna roll over this team, and the Eagles aren't good enough to do any of that. I worry about not having Miles, and either not having Jordan or not having a healthy Jordan Howard. This game's a little scary. Things have gone so well when you look at the wins, but I mean the slow starts, the lack of pressure. There's a lot of concerns when they can't run the ball. Then you factor in Jalen's ankle, which is obviously still an issue. Without Miles and Jordan Howard, and with Jalen compromised, can they run the ball, which I think they would have to do to win? I don't know. So a little bit of a scary game when I look at it. And beating Washington twice in a row and winning down in FedEx is never easy. So I guess there'll probably be a ton of Eagles fans. So there's that. But I look at it as a little bit of a scary game, and I think we'll learn a lot about this team, the coach, the quarterback, the whole roster, how they respond to the situation.
Yeah. You guys are there all the time, so you probably have a better sense of this than I do. And I know Nick has been asked several times about Jalen's ankle. And he sort of says, not a big deal. And Hurts, of course, says not a big deal. I'm just watching him play, and it's obvious to me he's hurting. That is not healed by any means. How far off of 100% do you think he is right now? I mean, good enough to win these games against lesser competition, but I mean, to use your term, Reuben, how compromised do you think he is right now?
I think significantly. I think the fact that he only ran twice, wasn't even looking to scramble. Now, maybe it's still getting better, but I certainly thought Sunday he was. Gosh, you see him limping onto the field and off the field. It's such a big part of his game, and to see him, and it was encouraging that he threw the ball well, not being able to run like he normally can. But to me, as far as movement, I would guess he's around, 75%. I don't think it's a lot higher than that. Now, maybe by Sunday it kind of strikes me as an injury that's going to be, it's not going to be 100% this year. I'd be surprised if it is. I think we were talking about this the other day. Dave said, well, maybe by Super Bowl week, having the 2 weeks off, it will be. But I think it's pretty significant. Just watching him. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But it is an ankle sprain, so high ankle sprain. But over time, it does get better. So I think it will continue to improve. But let me get your take on this, because I have a theory that it might not help them right now, because if he's limited, it obviously hurts them. But do you think it could be long-term a valuable lesson for him in the fact that he can't take off and run all the time? And we talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. We brought up Donovan and the broken ankle game.
Sure.
Similar idea here is that here's this young passer who likes to run an awful lot. And I thought there were even some times in that last game where normally he takes off and runs. Heck, even the play that should have been an interception, I thought that's a play he normally runs. So that ended up being a negative. But overall, I think it could help him, right? That if he has to kind of learn to stay in the pocket a little bit more and throw the ball as opposed to just taking off.
Yeah, I think that if you view it that way, there's something to be said for that, because part of his growth as a quarterback, if he's going to be the guy long term, it's going to be improving his play within the pocket, making those kinds, being able to set up in the pocket, see the field, read it, deliver the ball accurately. All those traditional quarterback things. He's going to have to. That part of his game is the part that he needs to develop the most. So if he's in a position now where that's kind of what he's got to lean on, that he doesn't have the escapability and he doesn't have the running component to its max, and he has to become a more sort of, for the lack of a better term, pocket quarterback. Yeah, this is all stuff that he's going to have to master anyway, and you can say that. The one thing that when I look at it, I always try to look at things from the other side of the ball. And I try to look at, how if I'm Washington, if I'm Jack Del Rio and I'm Washington's defensive coordinator, how am I preparing based on what I'm seeing now with him on tape and just having seen him a couple of weeks ago. And, I think when I'm preparing my defense, I'm not even worrying about a lot of the stuff we saw him run earlier in the season, a lot of that run by design, which was really a big part of this offense and a very hard element for defenses to get a handle on. You had the offensive line was playing really well. You had backs that could, once they got the ball in their hand, they could make some plays. But you also had to account for the fact that this quarterback could actually run plays by design, and they could draw up plays for him to run, and he would be really effective at it. You're not going to get those now. You're not going to get those now because I'm sure that Nick Sirianni's not putting those in the game plan now. They aren't going to ask him to make those plays. He'll still scramble some. He'll keep some plays alive. He'll get outside the pocket and make some plays just because a thing breaks down, and he'll do that. But a lot of the other stuff that was really a pretty dynamic element of the offense. If you look at his tally of what they call explosive plays over this year, over the course of the entire season. He's way up there among players in the entire National Football League in that category of explosive plays. He's not going to be that now. And I think, like you guys said, and I kind of agree with you, he probably won't be that for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's ready. I'll tell you what's interesting. If say the Eagles go into the Dallas game and they've clinched 7, but they have a chance to improve to 6. You just rest Jalen against Dallas, say, look, we're in. But we're going to be on the road. We know that. He needs to rest. If we're going to have any chance to win a playoff game, we need him to get healthy. Or do you play Jalen and try to improve your seed?
I don't know. Good question. What would you do?
I'd probably rest him.
I probably would too, but I guess it would matter too. I guess in that scenario, we're looking at Dallas. Is Dallas the 2 seed anyway? I guess it would depend on who you want to play too. If Dallas is going to be the 2 seed anyway, you say, well, we could play Dallas, or I don't know who's going to end up in that 3, but I mean, that could play a role too.
Yeah, I think I'm normally not a big proponent of sitting guys out in the end of the season games. I generally think that I've seen that really backfire on teams. I'm more of a let's practice during the week and maybe start our guys and play a half and give them a chance to play but get them out at halftime. That to me would be preferable to just sitting a guy. But if you have your quarterback who's, I think we all agree is dealing with an injury of some significance here, if a week off would actually help him and make him healthier and better for the playoffs, then, I think that's the smarter way to go.
And we've seen that Gardner Minshew can come in and play competitive. He'll give you a chance to win. That might not be all that far off right now. A healthy Gardner Minshew and a Jalen on one leg. You might win that game anyway. Who knows? But it's an interesting thing to think about. He keeps popping up on the injury report. We didn't get today's yet, so that tells you he's not 100%. They have to be honest on that. It's not what they tell us. It's what shows up on that email we get every afternoon. So it's interesting. They're just so much easier to defend when the threat of the run isn't there, and it's just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys saw or have seen by this time some of Washington, Dallas last week. Boy, the Cowboys looked really good, and their defense is really good now. Considered when you think about what a mess their defense was last year, the way they're playing right now. Boy, they have so much speed on that side of the ball. They are really they're really, really a good defensive team. They were a team that couldn't stop anybody last year. And I think the change in defensive coordinator, I think Quinn has come in and really done a good job with them. And then the addition of Parsons has given them a tremendous playmaking element in the front seven that they are now to the point where they are a good defensive team. And I can't remember the last time I could say the Cowboys were a good defensive team. They were a team that even when they were pretty good a couple of years ago, kind of won on their offense. Right now, their defenses, they're playing really good football.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that defense is really fun to watch too. Micah Parsons he could be an all-pro at 2 positions. And Diggs has 11 interceptions now?
Yeah.
Maybe stop throwing that guy's way.
They have playmakers at every level, and yeah, they can run. They're physical, and they play with a ton of confidence. They're just I really hope that game means something. I want to see Jalen Hurts. I would love to see a healthy Jalen Hurts play the Cowboys. There might be 2 opportunities for that to happen. So maybe by the second one, he'll be doing better. But they're I think I wrote my preseason game by game that the division title would come down to week 18, 17th game, and that the Eagles would beat the Cowboys in that game and win the division. That's not going to happen, but certainly a lot at stake, most likely in that game.
So, Ray, what are you thinking here? This game, Eagles-Washington from FedEx Field. Leaning Eagles, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I am. I feel a little bit of what Reuben was saying earlier. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be easy. You know, if you're just going by what you saw last weekend and you saw how just dreadful Washington looked and everything that's happened within the team and around the team, there's a temptation to say, oh man, they're not even going to show up on Sunday. I don't expect that. If anything, I expect them to come out and be looking for a fight. You know, I think they certainly should have been embarrassed by the way they performed. And some of the stuff that's happened around the team this week is, you know, it's the kind of thing that can galvanize a team. Now, it doesn't make them better necessarily, but I think that they're going to come into this game and just go through the motions. I don't expect that. I think it'll be a fight, right, at least through the first quarter, maybe up to halftime. But the Eagles, to me, right now are playing good football, and they have a lot to play for. So I expect them to win, and I'm saying 28-14. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if, you know, that's with a couple fourth quarter big plays that kind of push the score out to 2 touchdowns. I think it's going to be a battle for a half, but I think ultimately over the 60 minutes, the Eagles will find a way to win.
All right, Ray. Well, thanks for your time. Happy New Year. Don't get too crazy on Friday night. We need you all perky on Sunday for pregame. We'll talk to you again next week.
Okay, I look forward to it. Talk to you then, guys.
Hey, score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For details, visit AAA.com/Eagles. It's the Nissan year-end sales event with last chance offers you'll want to hang on to. Shop your local Nissan store today or visit NissanUSA.com. Better hang on to those deals before they slip away.
Thanks, as always, to Ray Didinger for joining us. That was good stuff. Rube, before we wrap this pod up, the last pod of the year, we did want to talk about the running back situation. We know Miles Sanders is out. Jordan Howard returned to practice on Thursday, still banged up, dealing with that stinger. Kenny Gainwell's been on the injury report this week with an ankle. I mean, what do you make of what they have at that position going into a really important game?
Yeah, it's not ideal, and the running game has been such a big part of, you know, of this team for the last 2 months. And you know, they've run it well without Miles. They've run it well without Jordan. But can they run it? And, you know, at practice today, we saw Jordan standing off to the side for the early part of the open period. And then he ran over, jogged over for the individual stuff, and then practice closed. So I'm not sure how much. I assume he'll be listed as limited. I don't know if he's going to play. I mean, those neck, you know, he had a neck injury that ended his season 2 years ago. Nick says they're not related. It's a separate injury, but I don't know if he's going to play. And if he does play, I don't know if he's going to be that, you know, 17 for, you know, 75 type guy that we've seen when he's been healthy. I think Boston Scott's a really nice change of pace back, but he's not ideal to be your lead guy. I mean, that's unless it's against the Giants, you know. So, you know, they brought in Kerryon Johnson, who was here in camp and wasn't terrible. They just didn't, you know, they didn't really have a place for him. They didn't have a role for him. But he just got here. He knows the offense from being here in camp. Jason Huntley's on the practice squad. I don't think he's going to fit in. It's a concern. And to not have Miles, who's been so good and so productive, that Washington defense, when they're intact, they're very good against the run, and they're intact right now. So it's a concern, especially with Jalen's ankle. That you know, eliminates another rushing option and makes them, like we said, are easier to defend. It's a big concern for me.
Yeah, I get it. The one thing I will say is that the star of the run game has never been Miles or Jordan or Boston. It's been the O-line. And I know that they don't have Driscoll anymore, but they have Landon Dickerson back. And that O-line's still really good. And that's probably, if they're going to win this game, that's probably where they're going to win it, is that O-line taking care of a very good defensive line that Washington has.
Yeah, that's going to be the matchup. I figure if they can run the ball, it's going to be no contest. I just don't know if they can do that.
Yeah. Got anything else before we wrap this up?
No. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? You do?
I don't do New Year's resolutions.
No,
Do you?
I'm not surprised. You don't seem like that type.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I never really have. Did you do them or no?
Well, my New Year's resolution is no more resolutions. So
okay.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the way I live my life. No, I hope everyone has a safe New Year's Eve, and it's a shame. Things are so bad out there right now. We can't enjoy New Year's Eve the way we used to, but just be safe out there and enjoy it. And hopefully things start getting better soon.
Yeah. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get.
You ever go to Times Square on New Year's Eve?
If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. I never have, never will. That seems awful to me. Seems like the one place I don't want to be. And this is, I mean, COVID, no COVID, never want to go.
Yeah, I did it twice when I was living up there. And the first time I said I would never do it again. And it was a mistake to do it again. It's something you want to do once and then never go back. I went back the next year. It's a lot of people. It's not
for me. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you after the game on Sunday.